Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 364, The Morning After Woe. Now, in many ways, we are back to poem 348. You guys remember when we did this one? I dreaded that first robin so, but he is mastered now. I'm some accustomed to him grown, he hurts a little though. I thought if I could only live till that first shout got by. Not all pianos in the woods had power to mangle me. I dared not meet the daffodils, nor fear their golden gown would pierce me with a fashion so foreign to my own. I wished the grass would hurry, so when 'twas time to see, he'd be too tall, the tallest one could stretch to look at me. I could not bear the bees should come. I wish they'd stay away in those dim countries where they go. What word had they for me? They're here, though not a creature failed, no blossoms stayed away in gentle deference to me. The Queen of Calvary, each one that salutes me as he goes, and I, my childish plumes, lift in bereaved acknowledgement of their unthinking drums. The woe is so massive that even her love of spring cannot bring much joy to her. We're going to see something very similar here. This is possibly another theodicy, that is to say, nature does not care about her pain, she will point out. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you worked through our set of introductory comments where we posited that in room 303, when we meet a text, we ask about the big five. The big five questions. What does this text say about epistemology, what you can know, ontology, who you are, psychology, the study of the individual mind, sociology, the study of the collective mind, and then finally, that word, theodicy. Why must there be pain? Why must there be suffering? And of course, the greatest text to try to address this is John Milton's Paradise Lost, of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world, and all our, what's the word he chooses to use? It is the word woe. So it is interesting that Emily will use this word one more time. As I've said to you guys a number of times, I think there are a few authors that are standing behind Emily. For sure, of course, it will be Milton and his question of why must there be pain? What is it that he said he wanted to do to justify the ways of God to men? And here, Emily, I think, will say to Milton, yeah, you haven't done a fine enough job yet explaining to me the justice of this world of pain that I am, this woe that I am having to deal with. As we read the poem, hear the longing of this poem, the longing for some kind of salvation. And note all of the Christ references here, crucifixion and Calvary as well. The morning after woe, 'tis frequently the way, surpasses all that rose before for utter jubilee. As nature did not care and piled her blossoms on, and further to parade a joy her victims stared upon, the birds declaimed their tunes, pronouncing every word. Like hammers did they know they fell, like litanies of lead on here and there a creature. They'd modify the glee to fit some crucificial clef, some key of Calvary. Now, we have seen Emily already referencing this idea of crucifixion and Calvary and the like in poem 348. You'll remember she was the Queen of Calvary as we studied that poem. Notice it's the morning after woe. Now, of course, there's that famous psalm, "Joy comes in the morning," and she will use the word joy and she will capitalize it, but she will here seem to be suggesting, I don't think so. And as a matter of fact, it's frequently the way, by the way, woe gets used 24 poems, right? It's frequently the way, surpasses all that rose before for utter jubilee. Go back to poem 593 with that reference to jubilee. As nature did not care, by the way, did not care is only used one time as a phrase in all her poetry, and it's here, and piled her blossoms on, notice capital B. In other words, nature in the spring loves to pile on. We're back, as we said, we're back to poem 348, right? And piled her blossoms on, and further to parade a joy her victim stared upon. In other words, she says, I'm the victim of spring. Now, of course, she loves spring, and she loves the blossoms, but not when she's having such pain. Now, again, what pain, what woe, what is it that led to this? We don't know. And in so many of our comments about some of these poems, we just have to speculate it at best. What is spring like when you're in pain? The birds declaim their tunes, pronouncing every word, but it's like hammers. And then she'll ask, did they know they fell like litanies of lead on here and there, a creature? If they knew it, if they knew that their singing was in fact not joy-filled, but litanies of lead, what an amazing line, they'd modify the glee. We'll see glee in 13 different poems to fit some crucifixal clef. And you'll remember, again, as we said, 348, the Queen of Calvary, crucifixal only use, right? Some key of Calvary. Again, Calvary used in 11 different poems. Well, what is going on here with Emily? I think at 2a, she's suggesting that when one is in pain and suffering, no easy theodicy will answer it at all. That is to say, joy doesn't seem to come so easy because nature doesn't care. Nature will provide us in the spring with the bliss, the glee, the joy of birds singing. But if you are in a bad place, well, it doesn't always lift your spirits. And again, the theodicy of Emily, when taken fully, is to learn to ask not why did this happen to me, but rather why did this happen for me? And it seems like a poem like this is almost that kind of question. At 2b, the sounds of this poem are remarkable, right? Woe and way, jubilee and Calvary. At 3a, the great scholar Priest has pointed out that Burgle's classic painting, Fall of Icarus, demonstrates how Icarus is falling into the sea, and no one in the painting seems to care. Of course, this takes us to Auden's Musée du Beaux Arts. By the way, we've given a full lecture on this poem at learnstrong.net. You can run that one to ground. He makes the same observation about suffering. They were never wrong, the old masters. And he makes the same kind of observation that Emily seems to be making here, that when you are in great pain, no amount of other people's joy alleviates that pain. It actually is almost like piling on, right? And of course, at 3a, we think of Milton's Paradise Lost and the use of the word joy. And of course, the quest to justify the ways of God to men. At 3b, finally, when was a time that you experienced this kind of woe? And how did you get through it? And is it possible your study of Emily's helping you? I hope so. Thank you.